question I got from Dago was, why do I go after progressives? What progressives? Vaush is just an abusive libertarian with like a coat of leftist paint. Ollie shows that they don't actually care about moving forward, which is the very definition of progressive, by the way. They don't want to listen to criticism. They just leave the transphobic stuff up that's hurting people. You know, what progressive am I criticizing? And like, here's the thing. As much as like these people want to paint the whole, oh, you know, this is cancel culture toxicity, all cancel culture actually is an anti-marginalized buzzword at this point. It's like screaming socialism in an American political chat. You know, it just means marginalized people should have their voice stripped from them unless they are going to uphold the status quo. That's what cancel culture is. Let's just be honest. I'm not on about cancelling as it originated in the Twitter community, which is just, I can no longer support this person for ethical reasons, I'm walking away. I'm on about the hypothesized phenomenon of cancel culture, which is quite literally just the advent of marginalized people being able to reclaim a voice for themselves online. You say, why am I attacking progressives? I ask you, why are you calling people who actively seek out to abuse and hurt marginalized people progressive? You know, that's the better question. How can you say that is progressive? So, yes. I'm sorry, I'm still recovering from my lungs. I took this before I started, and I was doing so well, it's just then I got a bit of fluff in my lungs, and I just felt it all the way. It's just, no. But yeah, I mean, I've got a video coming out. The next video coming out is criticism of a conservative Christian organization. It's not like I don't just criticize people on the left. Also, I notice you never say the same thing to Vaush. That's another thing. Vaush can go on abusing actual people on the left who are doing good for the community, because Vaush does no good at all. All he brings in are abusive people, which he can then point and direct towards people to abuse them. That's all Vaush does. Vaush does nothing positive. There is no positivity to what Vaush and his channel have done. He's created an army of abusers.
Weevil, when did we say that people should be fully responsible for the emotions of strangers on the internet? When did we say that? I can't remember us saying that once.
Also, when you've decided that you're going to profit off of a community, you have a responsibility. Like, both Vaush and PhilosophyTube have made a profit talking about trans issues, but they don't want any of the responsibility. Why? You know, you can't have it both ways. So, yeah. Essence of Thought can joke about trans people / transgenderism ever being benign. That's actually one thing I did mean to bring up, is the fact that in the criticisms of Ollie, it wasn't a case of everyone was against it. Everyone who was hurt by it was against a cis person doing it. There are some trans people out there who personally believe that these sorts of jokes are okay to make, for trans people to make. I personally disagree. It makes me uncomfortable either way.
Same here. But there are funny trans jokes. There are lots of really funny trans jokes. Yeah. This just isn't one of them.
But
of course, again, it's not even a good joke. It's just a bad pun.
But there are people.
It's a very bad, uncreative pun.
There are people who are like, this joke, as a cis person, just no. I've seen people compare it to the usage of the N-word, and I guess the similarities. There are similarities there in the fact that the N-word for many black people is uncomfortable. Some see it as fine for other black people to say, and again, there are a few who will say, no, it's okay for white people or cis people to say these things. But yeah, so I mean, it's really amazing, and Vaush never gives this level of abuse towards any of his far-right targets. That's another thing. It's always the vulnerable and marginalized he goes after the most. So, yeah.
That's true. I don't think I've really seen him yell at Nazis that much. Really, the only time he yells at Nazis is when he has to speak over them.
He has respectable
Like,
debates
because
with them.
they won't let him speak, and that's basically it.
Mm-hmm.
He speaks so softly to Nazis and transphobes and all that. When it comes to actual trans people, and also like trans people he's just made up that don't actually exist, yeah, he is very toxic. He's very toxic to his own audience as well. If you watch Vaush, first of all, why are you here? I don't think you would want to be here, but like also stop watching him. He's abusing you. Please leave.
Yeah. So, not sure there's anything you really want to say on the topic. Do you think a big part of the problem is internet famous people, fandom, consuming content is being aimed as useful activism and good for the left? Yes. What I pride my videos on is not the video itself. It's the fact that I reference every argument I make so clearly that other people can come along, find those resources, have those resources, learn the arguments. None of this making up stuff, making up positions that people have never argued. Just taking the Vaush video, for example, the whole idea that he dismisses harm on the grounds that not a single non-transphobic person has been made transphobic by this tweet, when no one said that. That is the sole credential he bases his harm off, which is absolutely garbage rhetoric. Nobody is learning anything from that rhetoric, except for how to just ignore the actual issues going on. That does harm, that does not benefit. Vaush does not teach his audience anything. Vaush just yells angrily and sends his people to abuse others. There is no benefit to Vaush, and it's amazing how he thinks there is. Like, what has he actually taught his viewers? That's something I'd like to know. What has he actually taught them? Like, I break down studies, I do the research, I try to make it accessible. I know I've had problems with that in the past, I'm trying to do better. That's part of why Levi has come on board as an editor. We also make our streams accessible by doing minutes, which I've completely forgotten to take them, but I'll do it afterwards. There's this idea that just by consuming stuff, you become better. That can be an issue. There's also a lot of subpar content when in teaching is being praised as so much more. People keep going on about the fact that Ollie made his trans video. Okay, it's a pretty basic trans 101. It's nothing exemplary. It's nothing, oh my, this is so great sort of thing. He did a basic effort at one point, but because it's formatted and filmed very well, people think that it is good. But that's not how we should be gauging arguments and points and supplying people with information. 1 second.
I think it's actually very sobering. Working on the videos we do as the editor, I see the video just as a script. I don't get to see any of the fancy visuals or the tricks or the, and I don't get to hear how it's narrated, and it really does make the content seem a lot less impressive when you're just reading words. We really have to stop being taken in by nice filmography and people who are very well spoken.
Or people who feel that primal us versus them mentality. I get the idea of defending yourself, but Vaush, the way he talks about people with the lightest criticism, needing to be excluded from the communities, leftist circles.
Which is very funny because he keeps talking about how, the left, you all want this little baby space where no one can do anything, and we need to branch out and be more inclusive. And then he's the most exclusive person on the quote unquote left, if you could say he's on the left.
Vaush has the same problem that conservatives do. You know, this whole, oh, you criticizing what I said is you silencing me. No, it's not. It's asking you to be better. You actively
You'll
saying
notice.
that the people criticizing you should be kicked out of the spaces forcefully, but he just ignores all that. EOT, I mean, there's the other thing. Just acknowledging the science on trans issues and explaining how it actually supports trans identities. Suddenly you're a trans ally and can do no wrong. Yeah, there's that as well. You say one thing positive and you can use that as a token, and that's it. You got your getaway free card. That is another
Can do no
issue.
wrong ever. Yeah.
Yeah. It really is just boggling. And
throughout this issue, I have felt like there's like Riley's video felt a lot like, you say dishonesty, but I feel like a lot of it is just that she's so used to getting nothing but table scraps that she genuinely thinks that any cis person who is maybe remotely interested in possibly being trans friendly at some point is a trans ally.
I don't. Riley
is fair.
has a deep double standard when it comes to targeting people she doesn't like versus targeting those, like other people targeting those who she does. You say anything about, criticize anyone that she likes and she will defend them to the ends of the earth. Someone say anything negative about people that have, like, she's had run-ins before and she accepts it like that. Just today I found out she got into a thing last night where she was, one of her associates was called out for denying the Uyghur genocide going on in Xinjiang, China, in which an estimated 1 million people, that's 11th of the Uyghurs, have been incarcerated in camps in Xinjiang. Now this person was criticizing it, and so the person who was getting criticized rushed over to Riley and said, hey, this person, they're criticizing me, etc. They're saying that I've denied this. Riley goes over to that person and messages them and says, like, show me evidence of this or I'm going to ban you immediately from my Discord. And the person responded, stating, first of all, it came from a private source they know, so they don't feel comfortable sharing that information. And secondly, could you just hold off for a bit? I'm currently having a trauma episode. This person very explicitly told Riley that they were having a trauma episode. And Riley kept on at it. Until the point that they had to end up going to hospital because, again, they were just trying to deal with the situation. Riley had been told they are having a trauma episode right now and just kept going on at it. I was gathering the videos that she did in response to me for the future project I mentioned. I look in the chat and someone mentions a group of lies about me, and she just one sentence accepts it. They don't give any sort of references. So I then came along and this is the evidence that this person's bullshitting. If you're on my Twitter, you probably would have seen that. But again, there is this distinction of anyone who is part of the Riley clique, defended immediately until the very end. Anyone who Riley does not like, oh yeah, they'll just accept it immediately. It's just this double standard, especially when it comes that the double standard applies mostly to trans people who are critical of people like Vaush and Xanderhal. So, I guess that's it, unless anyone has any sort of questions they'd like to ask. Again, I do apologize for how my lungs have been today. Hopefully the flu will sort of be recovered eventually. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything you really want to add to all this conversation. So.
Well, since you brought up the whole, what's the words? I'm sorry, people, my brain isn't working. The situation you had where Riley just took this person who abused you at face value, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Before someone was saying, oh, just talk to Vaush, just talk to Ollie. I want to remind everyone, the one time I tried talking to a transphobe didn't work at all.
Mm-hmm.
The other time when I criticized someone and they said, well, oh, you should have talked to me.
Mm-hmm.
you know, they didn't have anything to say for themselves anyway. So, you know, this idea of, oh, they'll change your mind when you talk to them, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. If they are the sort of person who's actually going to listen when you talk to them, they will listen even if you don't talk to them. You know, there are just some people out there who do not want to be held accountable, and this is what this is these people don't want to be held accountable because it's much more profitable to set up a system where people can't criticize. You know, if you think about it, your income is coming from having a famous YouTube channel, and you have the option to either have to listen when people, you know, criticize you and actually have to make amends for the mistakes you make, or you can just shut them out and pander to the people who, you know, maybe want to feel progressive and feel like they're trans allies when they're not. One of those is very easy, and one of them takes a bit more work. And that's what this is.
Yeah, it really is. It's just...
Yeah, that whole thing I just said, but in more eloquent words.
Yeah, they always fall back on the I know so-and-so personally and they are not transphobic, which, for those that don't know, is just a repackaged defense of domestic abuse. Like,
oh God, it is.
It's literally, oh, well, they've never been violent around me. It's sad that that's what that's come to. And, yeah, I'm annoyed at the fact that I have to do so many videos criticizing voices on the left. Because, sadly, those voices have been allowed to escape accountability for so long, you know?
Like, you know, it would be nice. It would be nice if we didn't have to spend so much energy getting our own house in order and we could focus on the other problems, like the people who want to kill us directly. But
and that's another point. People always bring up, like, why are you trying to tackle, like, transphobia in our own communities when you should be doing it, like, the transphobia out there? And it's like, the importance of the show is the fact that it should offer trans people a place where they can come and discuss things and not in an assimilationist, restricted circle. You know,
it's kind of like,
you need
why
a home
aren't you
base.
Why aren't you dealing with the library being on fire when your house is on fire? It's like, because I kind of need my house. I need a space where I can be.
Because if you don't have...
I love the library, but I also need somewhere to live.
And it is just, you know, effectively having this transphobic toxicity from BreadTube, because again, this is not the first time, this has been going on for ages, you know, having this toxicity in, like, this community means that people like us are constantly having to fight this, constantly, it's a constant mental fatigue that's taking its toll. And that means all the effort that could be spent fighting the right can't until we get that sorted. You know, it's just, it shocks me how people just ignore that. So, but yeah, I don't think I have any more points, and it seems like the questions are sort of stopped. So,
yeah, I just want to thank our mods for helping us with this one, because it's a bit more controversial than last time, and I've been trying to keep an eye on the chat. It can be difficult, especially with how my brain can work. So thank you so much, mods. You made this way easier. Especially, like, Sosh, you're up at 4:30 in the morning.
Yes, I do apologize.
My God.
Like, when we were starting the show, we were just like, I'm just going to do a show for our time. Who turns up, turns up. It will always be available after.
And now you people are getting up at 4 in the morning.
In the morning. I'm sorry. Catherine Gallagher's also... right. In the abuse, it's never the fault of the person being abused. Victims never ask to be abused. Victim blaming makes things worse, and yes, that is the case.